WCLN 1170 Radio and Cable Channel 16 are pleased to present We Should Know, hosted by J.W. Simmons, an upbeat, informative look at people, places, and issues facing our community. This education-based analysis of issues will remain positive and informative as we consider closely what we should know.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We Should Know is on the air. I want to thank you for being with us today. We're coming to you Star TV. That's Channel 16 and Channel 316, Star Communications. Also, we're simulcast on WCLN Radio. Today, we're talking about jobs. We're talking about truck driving. Two people that know a lot about that is Amanda Bradshaw. Amanda is Dean of Workforce Development and Continuing Education at Sampson Community College. And of course, we have with us Kevin Randolph, and Kevin is director of the transportation programs at the college, which means, Kevin, truck driving. I want to thank both of you guys for being with us.
Thank you, JW, for having us.
Some of the biggest demand things that we have going on now is truck driving. And Kevin, I want to kind of start with you. I was looking at your background, and first and foremost, I want to thank you for your service in the military, United States Navy. My dad was in the United States Navy, and I have, anytime I see somebody in the Navy, I have flashbacks of my childhood, which was a good thing. But you were in Norfolk, Virginia. That's the reason you ended up on the East Coast, because you're a West Coast guy.
Correct. Absolutely correct. Yeah, I joined the Navy, and the recruiter said, let's send you to Norfolk. Yes, sir.
How about that? And everything went obviously well, because you were discharged honorably, and you ended up in truck driving. But after you got into commercial building and stuff? Commercial construction. I did heavyweight commercial construction, like the bridge they're building up on 24. Yeah.
That's what I did for years and years.
Wow.
And I got tired of getting laid off. When you start one of those jobs, you leave with what you came with, and that is a dinner bucket and a pink slip.
That was all contract stuff.
Yeah. So we might work here for 6 months, 9 months, a year. A long job would be 2. And then we're going to pack up. When they finish, they're going somewhere else. So I got tired of that, and I did some studying and learned that truck driving was a high demand job even back then, and decided to go get my CDLs.
Wow. So you ended up then doing that, and also doing some long haul, what I refer to as long haul truck driving, where you're going maybe across the country and stuff.
I ran 2 weeks out, 2 days in, 2 weeks out, 2 days in. That was before they were so amenable to getting drivers home more frequently. The company I ran for at the time was the only option. If you wanted to work for us, you're going to be out 12 and 2, out 12 and 2. So I learned to make that work.
You've been with the college now for like 3.5, 4 years?
Yes, sir.
And now you started out as a part-time instructor, and now you're director of the program.
Yes, sir.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Amanda, Kevin is one of these people that is under that huge umbrella that you call Dean over there. And you've got a lot of other programs. You've been with the college for several years now. I'm trying to remember, but it's my backward time is not that good.
I think we're going on 8 years, but don't hold me to that. I have to call Frankie and say, Frankie, get back, look at my file. But I think we're on 8 years.
Yeah. So it goes fast. But you've got background in public education, Duplin County to Sampson. You got an interesting track record as well.
Yes, I loved my path getting here. You know, I always tell people and folks whenever they say, well, is this what you plan to do? And I went, no, not exactly. I grew up on a family farm in Duplin County. My first real job outside of the farm, we owned a business in town, owned several businesses, and then I went and worked for Duplin County Cooperative Extension through NC State, and that's how I fell in love with the cooperative extension world. I was familiar with it with the farm coming off of it, and then a position opened up here in Sampson County, and Mr. Kent Wooten gave me the opportunity to participate and be part of this family over here in Sampson County. And since then, I've moved over to the college, and we've actually moved our residence over here to Sampson County a few years ago. And so we're fully vested into the Sampson County community.
Well, on behalf of me personally and the county, we thank you for that tax base increase moving over to Sampson.
You are most welcome.
I'm sure Ed Collins and the commissioners do definitely appreciate that. So I think what I want to do is kind of mention also that not only do you have the title, but your graduate study was in the field of workforce development and training. That I thought that it was just interesting to me because not only are you doing it, you've studied to the level of a master's degree, particularly in that field.
Yes, Yes, and working through NC State. Again, going through cooperative extension, we had the opportunity to take classes at NC State at no cost.
Wow.
And so I earned all of my master's without it costing me a penny other than driving to do graduation and having to pay for a robe. So
we're talking significant income out there.
Absolutely.
That's huge.
Absolutely. And so I chose that field just really because it has always been very, a big passion of mine that education gives you the opportunity to change your life. And I often tell our directors that when we're having meetings, at the end of the meeting, I'll say, thank you guys. Thank you for the work that you give. But I want to thank you because we change people's lives daily. And I often look at them and go, okay, I know that sounds so cliche, but we do.
You absolutely
we change people's lives daily. And it's because of the knowledge that we're able to give people. And our institution is one of the many in this area in the state of North Carolina that you're able to venture through. And now even with the online capacity, to be able to, as an individual, take that effort on to learn more so that you can change your life path for whatever it may be. You may not be interested in the career you're interested in anymore, or you're sitting in right now and you'd rather take a different path. Education gives you that opportunity to do that. Or you could just be getting out of high school and not really sure what you want to do. Education gives you that. But I'm also a big believer, especially in my division with what I do with short-term certifications and what we specialize in. It is important for those folks that are interested in the 2-year degree and the 4-year degree and moving further past those degree areas to look into the short-term certifications, because for some folks, that short-term certification is what they'll be best at. That short-term certification is what fits where they are right now in their lifetime. It may be that they need to up their income for their family because the family situation has changed and they really don't have the time to invest in a 2-year education right now. You know, it may be an option a year or two down the road, or maybe 3 or 4 years down the road. So we offer that piece in our area where you get the short-term piece, and it gets you in the door, gets you trained. And many of our partners that we work with across the state, we are their testing body for them so that the students have that ability to test right there on campus. And then they go and find a different job and they're able to increase their income from that particular perspective. So education has always been a big piece of what I enjoy. And I still enjoy learning. I still enjoy the process of learning and what that gives you the ability to know or to make decisions about. And so I just couldn't think of any other field that I felt like I would fit in. And I wasn't quite sure at the time whenever I chose it where it would fall or where it would fit, but it has fit well for where I am.
Absolutely. I think it was a somewhat cliche, but there was a phrase that was used some years ago. It was called, if you're living, you're learning. And whether you like it or not, it might not be in a classroom, but you're learning.
Absolutely.
You know, and I think you have to kind of use that as a stepping stone. I want to start today and talk about truck driving, one of those departments, and the guy that's in charge of that is Kevin. And Kevin, I want to kind of get a feel for the truck driving program. There's probably some folks listening to this program that's either going, it may be some grandfathers and grandmothers out there that's going to hear this and they may say, well, I'm fixing to call my grandchild because here's an opportunity. Some of the salaries that I looked at as I was doing a little bit of research here just simply was shocking to me, because we're talking upwards of $80,000, $100,000 with sign-on bonuses. Is that real numbers even for this area?
Those are real numbers for this area, but you're not going to run this area and make that. We typically, out of school, I tell my guys, well, I give them a ballpark, low to mid 50s out of school, first year. With experience and some careful research, you can sign on with a major, what I call a major carrier, the big boys,
right?
You know, the 10,000, 15,000 truck fleets. You can sign on with the big boys and go make that kind of income. But your credentials have to be spotless. Your record has to be spotless. Your work record has to be spotless. You have to be A to J squared away 4.0 to land one of those, like we were talking about before. Well, I don't want to mention names right now, but to land one of those, you better be spot on.
Right.
And we get that with the local some help us from local industries who are willing to give our guys a leg up. They'll pick our guys right out of school and help them along. I say help them along. They open a door for them so they can get into the field, so they can get into the trade and get their year. We have a standing kind of axiom: get your year, you can go anywhere. If you keep your MVR clean, if you keep your DOT clean, if you keep your license clean, if you keep your nose clean, don't go wrecking, don't go stacking up a bunch of tickets. Stay clean for a year, and you can pretty much go where you need to go. And we have like 3 or 4 reputable companies locally who are willing to give our guys a shot and let them come in and get their year. Now,
kind of as an apprentice
benefits well, but it's full pay.
Yeah.
They apprentice. No, they'll do a lengthy training program more often than not, so they can learn the ins and outs of that company's. Say like you're a chip hauler, they're going to want you to know how to run the bins. Say you're doing grain, they're going to want you to know how to work the chutes. Say you're doing feeders, they're going to want you to know how to load feeders. Say you're doing markets, they're going to want you to learn. There's a training program, but we've got these locals that are a huge help to us in helping us place our students. It would be a waste to come to my class and not get a job. It would be a waste.
So basically, you're saying that they would be expected to do auxiliary things that is beyond the driving of the truck.
Yeah, absolutely. To get a local job, you're going to do way more than that. You're going to load, unload. You're going to work different pieces of equipment on the unit. Maybe you're going to unload hoppers. Maybe you're going to open hoppers at the farm to let your grain in. It's minor stuff. Driving is the most of it, but you got to handle your freight too. The bills aren't paid till the customer signs the receipt. You got to handle your freight. People think we get paid to drive. We get paid to deliver. The driving is just no delivery receipt, nobody gets paid. So there is a place where you load the freight, then you drive, then you have to deliver the freight.
We're going to take a break. We're going to come back and explore that truck driving business a little bit closer. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. We'll be back in a moment. We're talking with Amanda Bradshaw and Kevin Randolph. We're talking about truck driving and other employability issues. We'll be back in a moment.
Let's get out of here.
Protect what matters most in your life with security from Star Communications.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Thank you for being with us again today. It's We Should Know. We're on the air. It's 2:30 every Tuesday. Tuesday and Thursday also at 7 p.m. It's on Channel 16, Star Communications 316. And we come to you with an information education show about things that you need to know about. And today we're talking about truck driving, and we're talking about employability jobs that can pay you reasonable money. And we're talking with Amanda Bradshaw, who's the Dean of Workforce Development and Continuing Education, and Kevin Randolph, who's the Director of the program, the truck driving program at Sampson Community College. Kevin, you were mentioning as we went to break, we were talking about some of the auxiliary things that truck drivers tend to be able to or need to know how to do, not just truck driving.
Yes.
Give us kind of an idea how this process works. For example, I'm a guy that's in the right age category, 21, 22, what have you, good driving record, and I come to you and say, I want to get in your truck driving program, and I've driven tractors and I've driven trucks on the farm. What's the first thing you're going to say to me?
First thing I'm going to ask you is, are you manual or automatic?
Yes.
That's the first thing I want to know.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's important because a lot of trucks now are automatic, aren't they?
And we teach purely manual. And so I would rather teach a manual than to have to unteach a backwoods automatic.
Is there two different lesson plans
Absolutely.
for both of those courses? They're diametrically
diverse, huge. Wow, huge.
So explain that to us.
Automatic, I don't mean to sound condescending, but automatic, press the skinny pedal and steer the truck.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and a manual, you will have to manually synchronize every gear you hit with the double clutch. And there's a series of techniques that you have to follow to get that right. For students, we teach road speed and tack, synchronizing the road speed and the tack, every shift, every gear, up or down. And that is the most difficult thing by far for our students to get, is how to shift. I could teach my 18-year-old how to not hit something. It would be another story to teach him how to shift.
We were actually just having this conversation last week. A lot of our local industries are starting to shift from the manuals to the automatics. Now, it takes time for anybody to shift a fleet. Anytime you choose to change something, it takes a minute. And when we say a minute, it's normally 4 or 5 years down the road. We met with Mr. Jim Bland the other day, who's the owner of TransSource, and he was conversating about how many of his customers now are preferring to do the automatics or the manuals, and how many are in which category. And most for his conversation, most were saying they were in the automatic area already, and very few were coming off the line as a manual at that point. Well, that then brings up the conversation about our local industries, because one of our biggest pieces here is to support our local industries and what are they using. So we've been reaching out to ask, okay, what are you using, and what do we need to train those folks on? And looking right now, all of our fleet is one way, and we are looking to transfer them over. Not completely, because we realize there will always be those industries in this area that want to teach. And so we're really questioning now, maybe 3 or 4 years down the road, are we going to teach essentially 2 different classes? Are you going to teach the manual class and then teach a completely separate automatic class for those students that would prefer to do the automatic? And I'm like him, I think that question really just depends on too where you are in the United States. There's some states that prefer the manual over the automatic. There's some states that prefer the automatic over the manual within their states. So it just really depends on where you are, but it's definitely a conversation we're entertaining. It's definitely a conversation that we are thinking through, because now that we have our new site out in the industrial park, we have the space to actually teach 2 separate classes.
We could.
And that brings into the question of what do we do with the fleet? You know, what does the fleet look like? Do we begin to transition the fleet? Those types of things. So it's almost like a thermometer that we're having to constantly keep the check on, because at one time, everybody was completely manual. You very rarely saw an automatic, and that's even in my time frame of coming into this program. And now you're seeing that shift begin to happen. And so it'll be interesting to see where it goes here in at least the next 4 to 5 years.
Kevin, what does that do to you as an instructor when you're thinking that you and your instructors that work with you, that you will have to, is that 2 different complete curriculums? Do you have to set up 2 separate classes? And if a person comes to you and says, look, I want to get certified in both, could they do that?
Here, absolutely. If you're a manual, you can drive anything. There's no restrictions.
So, but the opposite is not true.
Absolutely correct. If you've got an automatic, if you trained and licensed in an automatic, you have what's called an E restriction, in which you cannot drive a manual.
So you're limited in your workforce availability.
Correct.
Yes.
So if my automatic died and my company sends me to the yard to go pick up a spare and it's a 10-speed, I'm out of luck. I not only legally can't drive it, I don't have a clue. I probably couldn't even get it in gear. So that's why we're big on the 10-speed. That's currently what we have. There's 9s, 13s, anyway, but we have 10s. So we're big on the manuals because there are no restrictions. You can drive anything, manual, automatic, whatever.
And as he's saying that, he's looking at me, Amanda, thinking, you could probably drive an automatic, you know. So I'm thinking, you know what I mean?
We joke in the office by saying, when people say, what kind of students do you get? We assume that all of our students coming in the door have never driven anything bigger than a Honda, and they don't know how to drive a stick shift. We assume all students coming in the door start there. And it gives us our baseline starting point.
And that's probably true, unless you look back at years where people have driven school buses that had 5 or 6
back in the day, Chevy
that's
350
right.
and a 6-speed on the floor.
They understand that. So let's kind of follow that thread of looking at what the demand is. We've talked about the transmission issues. That's one thing. The other thing, I want to back up just for a moment. There is a cost to get into this program. So let's talk about some of the costs. And you've alluded to, but I want you to kind of speak to the prerequisites that's involved. You know, we don't want DWIs. We want certain things that is not there on traffic tickets and that kind of thing?
Those are actually two separate categories.
Okay.
You can come to our school with a tore up NVR and a horrible ticket record. And we will get you through school if you can do what's required of you to do. It's a pass or fail course. Mm-hmm. So if you can get through and pass our rigorous course, we have no restrictions on your record or your misbehavior, if you will, your poor choices in the past. Yeah. But those are going to limit you as far as your employability goes.
So that's where it catches up with you.
That's where it catches up with you.
So if
you're an ex-con with 10 years in the hole, I get them. Yeah. They've been in my truck. And these guys get out and some of them do really well because they're hungry and they want something different.
And instead of sitting home, they could go through school.
Oh, yeah.
Correct.
And they do.
So Amanda, to what you were talking about, then that basically says to me that if I happen to be in that category and I want to build my asset value, then it would be a good idea that I learn how to drive that truck, even though I might have past DWI or something else on my record. If I know how to drive that truck, I've got an added value. I might not be able to get through the door.
Yes.
But I've got that value there. Does that stay with me or is it renewable?
It's renewable. We have a number of recruiters. There's a range of companies that come to us. We have what we call second chance companies who have very relaxed starting requirements, who can waive some pretty serious offenses. And sometimes their benefit package isn't where a top tier company would be. Sometimes their pay package might not be. Sometimes the equipment might not be, but it's a start over company, right? It's a second chance company. We have them because every recruiter I get in my class, I'm going to have somebody raise their hand and say, what about felons? Okay, well, talk to me. That doesn't rule you out.
And so, well, that's kind of a good thing to know because oftentimes people probably may look at it and say, and I've actually heard people say this, well, I would go to the truck driving school, but I had this thing like 6 months ago, or I hadn't heard on a ticket I got. So really, you're not going to exclude them, is what I'm asking.
Not. The community college, that is one of the beauties of the community college system. We're an open door policy. We're an open door system. And we welcome all students who come in. And I will say, when the beginning of the community college system happened, one of the sayings that you always heard from Dallas Herring, one of the ones who began the community college system, was meet the student where they are. Sometimes for some of our students, that is them coming out of poor situations. Sometimes that is them coming out of a situation they can't help life threw them into. They're dealing with it. They are where they are. We have to meet them in that space as to where they are. Sometimes you're living through a pandemic such as COVID, and you have a student that for whatever the reason, sickness took over a little bit longer in their life than they anticipated. They no longer have employment, and now they're looking to get back into the world of employment, and we're there to help them do that at this particular time. So I think that is one of the beauties of the community college system.
And I think a big part of that too, Amanda, for me, when I'm talking with folks from other states and even in North Carolina, is that we've got 58 of those in North Carolina that's willing to do whatever they can to assist. And the community college, really, a lot of people don't realize this, but the community colleges work closely together to help move that person forward.
Yes, it's not uncommon for us to get in truck driving or another community college in our neighboring community to say, we know you offer this program, or the same for us. We'll say, we know you offer this program and we don't offer that program at this time. Can we recommend a student to your institution? And they'll say, for sure, yes, send us their contact information. We'll reach out to them. So we're very much helpful in that way. And because at the end of the day, it's all about our community. And our community isn't just this specific spot. Our community is Eastern North Carolina or North Carolina or the East Coast for that matter, especially whenever we're talking about trucking, it is in those areas.
So when we're talking about this, and we're going to take a quick break right here and come back, but as we're talking about this, we're literally talking about hundreds of thousands of open jobs that's demanding truck drivers now. As the last article I read, I think it was unbelievable at the number nationwide. Not sure exactly how about in North Carolina, but when we come back, I want to talk about that for a bit and kind of get into some of the specifics on requirements, monetary, that kind of thing. We'll take a break. We'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. We're talking about truck driving. We're talking about things that may be a good pocketbook thing for you to remember. We'll be back in a moment.
Just because something may work doesn't mean it's right for your business. Let Star Communications' knowledgeable consultants help you customize a hosted voice system that's right for you. Our dedicated experts work with you to understand your business needs and guide you at every step, from choosing and installing services to ongoing maintenance and support. Contact Star today.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Thank you for being with us today. We Should Know is on there. We're talking about truck driving. We're talking with Amanda Bradshaw, that's the Dean of Workforce Development and Continuing Education at Sampson Community College. And the person that directs the truck driving program out there is Kevin Randolph. And Kevin, as we went to break, we were talking a bit about the kinds of requirements and things that must-have things that you would need to consider if you're going into the truck driving program. Amanda, you had mentioned some of the credentials that may be expected or sometimes get fuzzy, but depending on what school or what TV station you're listening to and that kind of thing. So let's iron out for folks, or make it clear, should I say, the kinds of requirements that they've got to have to get in the program. And I know money's part of that.
Yes, the first thing for us is the waiting list.
It's really pretty simple.
Wow.
Once you get through the waiting list, then there's a set of criteria that you have to meet, but it's not difficult.
So is there a criteria to get on the waiting list?
Just call.
Just call.
You call, and we start going through the process with you of what you're going to need, which is your Cdl permit. That's one of the first things that you're going to need. And if you don't have that, that's okay. We walk you through. We actually have a Cdl Prep Permit class that we teach. It's a 24-hour course. It's in addition to the truck driving program. Okay. So we walk you through pretty much how the test is laid out. We help you to feel comfortable within the testing information that's going to be covered and what you're expected to know.
Tests, graded practice tests.
Yes, and so we help you feel comfort whenever you go to walk in the door. And people will often call us and say, do I have to do the permit class? Well, if you get into our class, yes, that is a requirement, because for us, you're not able to get on the road unless you have that permit. And that's not our rule. That's not Sampson Community College's rule. That's the state of North Carolina's rule.
Well, that actually saves them time too.
Yes, absolutely. And a lot of people will call and say, well, can I just read the manual and go test? And well, technically, yes. In all honesty, you can, but we run through the items that you're going to be covering that you need to be familiar with. It's no different than I would say, ACT prep or SAT prep. It's very much in that particular way. The other thing that you're going to need is your DOT physical.
Correct.
And we have...
That's mandated by...
Yep.
That's mandated by the feds, and there's a checklist that there's certain things that you have to be able to do. See, blood, lift, walk, bend, peripheral, eyes, 20/40 Snellen, uncorrected. Yep. There's a minimum criteria.
We have local partnerships with some of the local providers that they will, and we'll give you this information whenever you call and ask us these questions and get signed up and put on the waiting list. To know where those providers are, and they'll give you a discounted rate compared to some of the larger providers in places outside of our county.
Pretty hefty discount.
Absolutely. And we try to do that and that shows, to me, that shows the investment of our local providers in the community to the community.
Sure.
Because they know this is going to put people out into the community that are working, earning a living wage, and they're really ready to support that. And then from that point, the cost of the program is $405.60. And so that covers your tuition, your fees that come along with the program, and 60 cents worth of insurance. And then in addition to that is your books. And how much are the books?
$59.27.
$59.27. And we have those available in our bookstore. And we have hand-selected those books that you'll be using. They're ones that you might not find at some of the other institutions that teach truck driving, because we value folks knowing how to use an atlas. You know, we value folks knowing how to complete paper logs. We teach both, but we really want you to know how to teach. We really want you to know how to complete those paper logs. So they're books that we have accumulated through the years and made sure that selection, we try to keep it small, but we try to make sure that that selection is accurate in where today's truck drivers are needing to have that information.
What are the waiting lists? What are we looking at, numbers of people on the waiting list?
So waiting list really depends. We have a weekday and we have a a weekend. So we offer 2 classes. The weekday class is what we refer to as our full-time class. And that class it starts at 8 in the morning and roughly runs to 6. It just depends on where we are in the program as to whether you get out at 5 or 6 in the afternoon. That particular program runs for 11 weeks right now. And so for that program, if you need to get into it, you are probably looking at least a 2 to 4 month wait on the waiting list, if not more.
And that's 8 to 6 for
11 weeks.
11
yes.
weeks.
Monday through Thursday.
The weekend class is a little bit harder to get into because we do have those folks that are coming off of the farm. We see that list typically be a little bit longer just because that is the opportunity for folks to come that already have a career. So let's say that you're working at a local industry somewhere already, and you don't have the luxury to be able to stop your job and come to our program during the weekday. You're able to come on the weekend. That particular class right now is 15 weeks. And that list is a little bit longer just because folks are eager to get into it. So we're looking at how to better be more efficient at both of these so that we can get people in, get people out of these programs, but not give in to taking away from the rigor of the program or not give in to what our program is known for. Quality, yes. We're trying really hard to balance the two of those, but to keep these folks coming out into the industry. So for $405.60, the cost of your books,
$59.27.
a Cdl permit, which is $40 right now.
$43.25 to apply, and that gets you 3 attempts at your general knowledge.
Yep.
And then it's $18.75. I believe it's either $18.50 or $18.75 to buy the permit itself. So your total out of pocket is about $64 at the DMV.
Yep.
And if you can't pass general knowledge in 3 shots, pay your $43.25 again and go get 3 more shots at it. They don't want to keep you out. They just want to make sure you know your stuff.
That's right. And then last thing is your DOT physical. And with that, you can come on into the program.
And a drug screen.
And a drug screen, which is part of our fees that we put into it also. But you can come on into the program and you
So
can
we're talking
get
about
started.
$550, give or take.
$600
right in there between
and you're good to
$550 and
go.
$600 total package deal.
Yeah.
Package deal, all of it. Come.
Now, I will say one thing that a lot of students will ask us about is housing. So we have a fair amount of students that come through our program that don't necessarily reside here. They may reside in Goldsboro or Raleigh or other places that aren't exactly a short 10-minute drive from here. So we do also tell students to think through, if you're having to drive in, how much is the cost of gas going to be for you in this time that you need to budget during this particular time frame and save up for. Or how much is a hotel accommodation going to be? So we often work out a plan with our local hotels that we have here to try to help our students have a discounted rate to help them in that process too.
So we're looking at minimal costs when you look at other schools. We're looking at minimal costs to get in. We're looking at a quality program. We're looking at something that's going to pay dividends once they get out because of the demand for truck driving. We're looking for people that have the credentials, and they will be kind of screened automatically, as you pointed out, Kevin. They go through the physical. If they can't hear, they can't see, or something, they're going to be screened out. So there's automatic screening processes. The thing I want to kind of get to is this process when it reaches that point that you get the new facility built. It's coming, right?
So let's talk about that new facility a little
coming.
bit.
We got to talk about the new facility.
We started classes.
I'd like to go there.
Yeah.
We started classes at the new facility this week.
Yes.
Wow.
The facility is actually built in 2 different parts because that's how we were able to get funding, was through 2 different partnerships. So our first part was through Golden Leaf and EDA bonds, and we were able to pay for the actual asphalt parking lot pad. And it's a 600 by 600. It's a little bit greater than 600 by 600, but it gives us the opportunity to have 2 training units, 2 testing units, and a place for emergency vehicle operation training.
So that's built now?
That's built. Started classes there this week.
We're using it.
Our building, our classroom facility, the actual date that we're supposed to finish and do final walkthrough is March the 4th. So we anticipate by the time we get final walkthrough happening and then get power turned on, furniture moved in. We're really looking at probably the first or second week of April that we're able to offer our first class.
And that's located in Industrial Park?
It is. We actually have an address this week. That's brand new, hot off the presses. We are 395 Enterprise Drive. It's a brand new street. We had to go through the process with working with the county. That's been an easy process. Ms. Joyce helped us through that and getting the street named and getting us an address. And so it's brand new out there just this week. I haven't even got a signs up yet, but that's what our address is. Just past Schindler.
That's exciting news, Kevin. I mean, there's a lot of people, you know, we knew it was coming, but a lot of people may not know that it's, you know, the big part of it's there.
It's big stuff.
It's a huge partnership. We are not able to do this by ourselves. Let me throw that out there. You know, we are so thankful for our partners that have been willing to stand behind us really since day one of the program, 16 years ago. We're coming up on 16 years now. And companies such as Izell's, Mr. Grover Izell, we have Prestige Farms, Smithfield, which used to be Murphy Brown, those types of companies. Golden Leaf, EDA Bonds, Transource, all of those companies and more that I'm not even mentioning right now have been a huge part of making sure not only this program got started, but this program got funded, and this program has continued to move forward. And so we can't be anything out there without saying thank you to those folks because they believed in us and they believed in the vision that we were able to see. They believed in the vision where we were able to see it 16 years ago and the continued growth of it. And so we're very thankful for those partnerships.
I'm so glad you mentioned 16 years ago because I was just sitting here trying to think, how long have we been talking about this facility?
A long time.
Yeah, and it's literally come to fruition. I mean, once you get building on site, once you get an address, it's no more a dream. It's happening before our eyes.
It was real. I think it was real for me the first time that I walked out there and I smelled the asphalt. I felt the heat of the asphalt, and you could just, it was just, and I texted Dr. Starling and I said, I think I just shed a tear over this. But it really became super real whenever that happened.
We're going to take a break and come back for our last segment. As we come back, I want to mention it. Hopefully we can cover some of those classes of truck drivers, A and B and C and that kind of thing. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back in a moment. Stay tuned. We're coming up on our last segment.
To get the most out of your electronic devices, you need a strong internet connection and a protected home Wi-Fi network. You need high-speed internet from Star. Star has the fastest, most affordable high-speed internet service available for all your devices. We have no long-term contracts or high-pressure sales. Our service speaks for itself, and switching is hassle-free. We take care of everything with free installation from a local company. High-speed internet from Star. Internet at the speed of life.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being with us today. We're coming up on our last segment. As usual, I'll kind of take a little break here and remind you to continue to keep communicating with us. We like to hear from you, and you can email us at weshouldknowedu@gmail.com. That's weshouldknowedu@gmail.com. Or send us a postcard, Post Office Box 1482, Clinton, North Carolina, 28328. We not only enjoy hearing from you, but oftentimes we pick up on suggestions you've had or comments and reach out to folks to see if we can get people to address subjects and issues that you find are important to our communities. And I like to thank you for your past comments about shows we've done. A recent show we had where we had about 12 different people making comments on one or two questions during the holiday period. We put that together. That was quite a time-consuming show, but apparently you guys liked it, and I appreciate the comments you made. Continue to reach out to us, and we hope we will be with you in the future. As I've told you before, we're in our 11th year of operation, and we keep having great folks on to talk to, and apparently that's hitting the button for you folks, and we appreciate it very much. Today we're talking about truck driving and education, and two people who know a lot about that is Amanda Bradshaw, who is the workforce development person and continuing education. In the past, Amanda, we reversed that and put continuing education first, but workforce development is a primary goal now. And of course, Kevin Randolph, who's the director of truck driving at the college. As we went to break, you mentioned that the truck driving platform and building has started going up out at the industrial park. And on break, you mentioned that, oh, by the way, the asphalt's been poured. That's a huge step forward, and a lot of folks may not know that.
Yes, it is. And we have had several of our neighbors out there in the industrial park to come and visit with us. And when we take them back there, because it's past Schindler, and when we take them back there and they actually get back there and they stop at the entrance of it, they go, whoa, I had no clue this was back here. So we are very excited to be able to introduce this more formally to our community in April. We're planning a ribbon cutting ceremony to be able to introduce it out into the community and have our funding partners, as I mentioned, such as those folks that have been with us, those partners in the community. Senator Jackson has been a big piece of that in the last few months. He has been very helpful in helping us to get the road paved. If you're familiar with the industrial park, it stops. The actual paving stops right there past Schindler. And now we have a nice gravel road. And soon enough, as soon as the weather warms up just a touch more, we're going to have us a paved road. And he's been a big contributor in that particular area in supporting our vision here, along with our other community folks, partners that have been working with us. And so we're very excited about it and cannot wait to welcome everyone out. And Dr. Starlin often talks about having folks out, and he says we may even just have to have a good old-fashioned pig picking for this one.
I think you would get a lot of response for that. And I just say very quickly, Senator Jackson is always a huge asset.
Absolutely.
Anytime you can get his support in those kinds of things. Absolutely. Kevin, I want to kind of segue into this last segment, try to get in a little bit of conversation about the various classes of truck driving. We won't have time probably to get into a lot of the detail, but just kind of an understanding that you do train in all of those class areas, or is it just 2 or 3 particular classes? That's an interesting
question. We used to have a B class, but that limits you to a B only. So what's the difference in a B and an A? One of the main differences is weight of the towing unit. GVWR, gross vehicle weight rating of the towing unit. Another huge difference is it a combination vehicle? In other words, is it articulated or not? Okay?
Gotcha.
A's, you're going to run an articulated vehicle. You have to get your combination vehicle endorsement to make that happen. The driver for this thing is weight, okay? And it's the weight of the towing unit, and there's a provision where the weight of the trailer. If the GVWR of the trailer is over X amount, I believe it's 12,001. If you're pulling a trailer over 12,001, you need A's. And so it's weight driven.
And we still have a need for B's in our community. The limiting factor, which has been for us, we've offered the A's predominantly, with the B's offered kind of in a peppered in as folks have come to us and said, okay, we feel like we have enough of a need to put the class together. But the hindrance to that has been our space. And so when we were at our old field, whenever we worked there, we were very limited in being able to offer both classes. But now, with us moving to the new site, this gives us the ability to offer the A and the B, but to offer the B more than what we have in the past several times throughout the year now.
So maybe you're talking about, like, for example, to help a layperson like me understand, we're talking about, like, for example, a truck, a dump truck.
A UPS truck or a delivery truck a lot of times.
A dump truck.
You're not pulling anything that you can turn.
A dump truck's going to be a B. Here's the beauty of it. With an A, you can drive anything.
Yes.
With an A, you're qualified to A, B, or C. You're not limited to A.
Okay.
So we get a lot of people that wouldn't mind. We get a lot of people come through our class, have full A's, and then go pull dump truck. Because that's what they want to do. They want to be home every night. And they don't want to run long. And they don't want to do this and do that. So an A is the big ticket. It gets you anything.
Yeah.
So kind of funny way of looking at it. Unless you have a particular reason not to want to get an A, there's really no reason not to get an A because you can do anything with it. The training periods for the B and the A are very comparable. The curriculum is very comparable. The classroom is exactly the same.
So basically what I hear you saying is if you get the A, you've rung the bell one time, whereas if you get the rest of them, you got to ring it 1, 2, 3, 4 times.
Occasionally we'll get B's come back through and they want to upgrade.
It's pretty much the same kind of information, except you really get into the turning of the trailer you're pulling with the
and the weight difference, whether you got hydraulic brakes or air brakes or all that. We can get into all that, but the weight difference and how they behave differently.
And I know we're not going to have time to get into a lot of this stuff, but there's also a difference in, from what I read in what I call out-of-state and in-state driving and that kind of thing. That goes from federal to local guidelines.
A local guideline can be stricter than the feds, but never more lax. So this kind of touched on the 18 to 21 thing. We want to go there?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so an 18 to 21-year-old can only drive intrastate, inside the state that of their domicile. They can't break state lines.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so interstate is being able to go from state to state, state to state, state to state to state. So the 18 to 21-year-olds have a restriction that will not allow them to break state lines. That's why some of our local industries have been so helpful in helping this group of people get jobs, because most of our recruiters come in, they want over 21 because they need you to run to Kansas, Arkansas, whatever, right? But some of our local industries are more than willing to put on our 18 to 21-year-olds so they can at least get out and go to work until they get 21. Then if they want to run long, they can. So it's intrastate, inside state guidelines, interstate in any other state in the country.
The challenge we face in this area is we do have a lot of folks that are, a lot of students that come out of high school that are from families that are very familiar with transportation. It's what they know. It's been what mom has done. It's been what dad has done. It's been what granddad has done. And they want to pass that business down to them. Or they want to go work for Prestige, who my dad worked for. Or they're coming off a
big farm and this is all they've done.
Right. Yeah. And so the challenge there, and the federal government is very well aware of it. We've been in conversation back and forth with the North Carolina Trucking Association and Crystal Collins talking about the importance of how to help that 18 to 21-year-old find that position, find their place. Because we want them to stay in Sampson County. We want them to stay here and to work for our local industries that are here. But for some of them, it's a struggle. It is a challenge. And we have had some successes. Yeah. We've had some great local successes with our high school, working with them. And I will say our high schools are our biggest partners whenever we're looking to work with those students of that particular age frame. They're working constantly to help us to find and pick out those niche students that are interested in that particular field. So it's definitely got some more work to be done for it. But I do feel a little bit more confident in where the conversations were 4 and 5 years ago as to where they are now in Washington, D.C. And folks a lot of times think, well, what happens in D.C. doesn't really affect me here in Sampson County. Oh, yes, it does. It affects us tremendously here in Sampson County. And this is just one of the examples of the way that it does.
So as we kind of come toward a close here, I want to kind of get this in. We're looking at truck driving. Yeah. That is a very financially positive, rewarding career. Yes. And it's something that people should look at seriously as something that they may want to do 10, 15, 20 years. So this could be life-changing for a lot of folks.
Absolutely. I'm smiling because it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Driving is a hoot. I loved it.
I think that's something, Amanda, and we got about a minute here, but I think that's something I'd like to hear more from Kevin as well, is just kind of the feeling of getting in a truck and heading cross country. What is it like to sleep in a cab of a truck? You know, is that something that is rewarding? When is the best time to drive? You know, just the things to kind of get people's taste of.
After a while, it's the sweetest space on the planet because you're exhausted and you just want to go to bed.
Yeah. And everything's relatively there for you.
Yeah.
And hit the road.
Yeah. We do get a lot of our students that come back into us and they talk to us about, I now own my own company. Yeah. And I now am driving the United States and seeing parts of the United States I've never seen before, or even imagined seeing.
And getting paid for it.
Or we had one student come in a few months ago and he made the comment, he said, I have been able to support my wife because she had to quit her job because of COVID. She got very sick with it. He said, I've been able to support our family. We've bought a home. He said, and I've just bought my second truck. And he was so appreciative for the opportunity to be able to be part of our program. And we changed his life. And I mean, it was important for the instructors, for the directors to see that. And that's why we get up every morning and do what we do.
It's a big deal to have a student come back and give you a big smile.
Absolutely.
It's a big deal.
Absolutely.
That's a big deal for him to blow your phone up and say, you know, Mr. Kevin, thanks so much.
That's a reward for you guys. I'm going to give you the number out for your number, 910-900 4042.
Yes, sir. That's my desk.
Kevin's desk number.
Yes, sir.
If you have questions, and we're going to be putting this up on the screen too as people's looking at this. So maybe they'll give you a call. We're coming up on closure. I want to thank you for being with us and taking time to be here, both of you, because I know you're very, very, very busy.
Thank you for having us.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being with us today. And as always, we look forward to seeing you again next week as we'll talk about a subject that may impact your life, and may God bless.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of We Should Know with host J.W. Simmons. If you have a question, comment, or suggestion regarding this or any episode, please send your emails to weshouldknowedu@gmail.com. And remember to tune in every Tuesday at 2:30 for another informative episode of We Should Know.